we do not kneel.
中国不跪，中国不退。
Mainland China is stable and unified. China and Indonesia held their first ever 2+2 ministerial meeting. Hello everyone, I believe you've already seen a lot of contents about tariffs. Today, the focus of my video is sharing the message the Chinese government is conveying to its people, the thoughts and attitudes of ordinary Chinese citizens, and the potential impacts on Indonesia following the tariff changes. A few days ago, Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a bilingual Chinese-English short film titled We Do Not Kneel, clearly responding to U.S. bullying tactics such as imposing tariffs on China and technological blockades. Let's do a quick recap of April's tariff wars. April 2nd, the U.S. imposes a so-called reciprocal tariff of 34% on Chinese goods. April 4th, China retaliates with 34% tariff on all U.S. imports. April 8th, the U.S. raises tariffs on Chinese goods by another 50%, totaling 84%. April 9th, China responds with the same, raising tariffs to 84%. April 10th, the U.S. escalate tariffs to 125%. April 11th, China matches that, raising tariff to 125% and declare that U.S. export to China no longer have a viable market. In other words, China stopped playing the tit-for-tat game. So what happened next? From April 14th to 18th, President Xi Jinping visited several Southeast Asia countries, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia. At this point, still no news about Indonesia. Then on April 16th, during Xi's trip, the U.S. raised tariffs on select Chinese goods to 245%, mainly targeting strategic industries like electric vehicles and solar energy. This implies that these Chinese sectors become a real threat to the U.S. market. On April 21st, China and Indonesia held their first ever 2+2 ministerial meeting. Which two ministers? The foreign minister and the defense minister. You can probably guess what they were discussing. The official statement said they agreed to establish a comprehensive dialogue mechanism and also signed a cooperation agreement on maritime security in the South Sea. And what is the key hotspot in the South Sea? Taiwan. This kind of by-the-way agreement often end up being the most significant. Then on April 25th, the Chinese government held a special meeting to analyze the current economy situation and plan the upcoming economy policies. What other big news has there been in China during this month, during April? We had robots running a marathon. We had a successful launch of Shenzhou 20, the rocket. We had Huawei unveiling its new Qianhun intelligent driving system. These stories showcase China's technological achievement. On the other side, one high-level senior official, Li Gang, was arrested for corruption. Another, Li Pengxin, received a suspended death sentence, also for corruption. On the political side, this shows Chinese anti-corruption efforts are ongoing. A lot of people think Chinese news is tightly controlled by the government. If that's the case, then the message is being released are pretty clear. Mainland China is stable and unified. The high-tech sector is booming, and the government is fully in control and moving to the right direction. As an ordinary Chinese citizen, seeing such news makes me feel confident about China's current situation. Confidence, after all, is the linchpin of the economy. As everyone knows, when people trust the market, they're willing to spend and take risks. Engaging actively, this is how the economy cycle improves and the wheels of the economy keep turning. That's the message the government is sending to Chinese people. What are the thoughts and attitudes of ordinary Chinese citizens towards these high-profile news topics? Let me read some highly upvoted comments from the trending news.
绝不妥协，坚决支持国家反制，捍卫国家尊严，维护国家利益。干就完了， 我宁愿生活质量下降，也不愿意受美国的气。没必要搭理傻子。感觉美国有点黔驴技穷了，不管3721的加关税。
Of course, these comments do not represent everyone. There is still the silent majority, but they do reflect the perspectives and attitudes of at least some people in China. So, what does this mean for Indonesia? Number one, export trade is taking a hit, with a 32% tariffs now imposed on Indonesia export to the US. Any business connected to the American market is probably already feeling the impact. Number two, currency depreciation and capital outflow. I often need to exchange RMB, so I'm quite sensitive to these numbers. I remember when I first came to Indonesia in 2018, the exchange rate was about 1 to 1,800. Recently, it went up to 1 to 2,300, and now it dropped slightly to around 2,270. The speed of which the rupiah is losing value is pretty alarming. Number three, pressure on economic growth, possibly leading to a recession. But honestly, this seems to be happening everywhere. Not just in Indonesia, even China, while strongly standing up to US tariffs, has been saying through its foreign ministry that no one wins in the trade wars, and cooperation is the only way forward. Basically, everyone's losing here. But there are also new opportunities. A large portion of China's manufacturing is very likely to shift to Indonesia. The recent 2+2 ministerial meeting probably already laid a groundwork for a lot of economic cooperation. Indonesia can take advantage of its natural resources and lower labor costs to take on some of the manufacturing orders moving out of China. In the short term, Chinese domestic brands will likely step up their marketing efforts and distributing networks in Indonesia. With the US market becoming less accessible, many people who used to focus on America will now turn to new market, and Indonesia has been a hot spot in recent years because its large population. As Chinese brands enters and compete for market share, many local and Western brands will feel the pressure. If you work at a multinational FMCG company, hitting target might get tougher. However, in the long run, if Indonesia can seize the wave of industrial transport, just like China did around 20 years ago, and build up its own industrial and supply chain, it will be a huge boost for the country's development. So hopefully both China and Indonesia can weather the current challenge and move towards a better future.
祝你今天特别开心，我们下个视频再见，拜拜。